제리 rabdo chungwa lekpa pe nyeba suba shikwe. Labur nidu nye jue mangwa tamze nye songdo zhuwa xie chewe. Gili zhuwa gung gun sue la, xenge yuande charubri la yang, sangge dar gunbe lo mi gewar. Rangxi nye ring tamze ki cang long, yuande la mambe, zhuwa na tiu rang tenpa dar songdo ge. Sangge nyeba. Rangyu le kebar jigya mebar, suwa kakyu du daba la chilab kanen chu. 무구 유에야 질러 민주세네 군조 진du 라마라 이체바게 세와데 최봉게 레사베 도진야와르 깽에 라마라 랑게 네거도 터도 뉴마상네 컴주 랍 동동 제바나 도진야와르 깽데 독숨기 누구 대연신 라마라 상지투 그연 뉴마 첸데브르 데베 르마른 규지 다 괴베 자오 소소로 소다르기 domba pamba시 랑마 당보데 제바노르 괴메바시 괴데 라지 추규 직미기 차당게 domba semla 르룬디 분낭게 추 간에 르 미셰베 런규는 나와 개체 말데 디즈링 자스도야 다리 인지디 도진야와르 깽에사데 라마르랑게 네고도 터동 두메산디 도진야와 깽에사
Generally, monastics need to increase the good and remove their faults. In particular, there is much wrong conduct in a degenerate time, so most everyone will go to the lower realms. But without thinking about how any accomplishment of virtue or good is extremely rare, and how even the slightest of other people's qualities are as exceptional as a Buddha. They pick out the hidden faults of everyone near and far, themselves and others, and disparage their qualities. Isn't associating with them the same as befriending a hobgoblin? Sanjay Nyempa, how can people who, without changing anything in their being, spew gobs of phlegm as supplications, receive the blessings? Declaring, I have devotion, but did not receive the blessings, and then saying that you have lost faith in the Lama, the embodiment of all the jewels, accumulates the karma of rejecting dharma. So rebirth in the Vajra hell is certain.
다 가서 쉬는 시 다 미지 가서에 미지 튜닝 대바지게 거베입니다. 다지 들어가지 가서에 바지 believe somewhere 대바예버 점시다 매바예버 점시 핑계어만해 다디 소소기 오늘 전에기 균zen당 안다는 신기 오늘 니줄이야 도십체네 되네 리바 가르래도와 녀바 가르래도와 때네 오늘 니줄 토래야 바 가서지 링이기 바 연제 체고버래 마도베 안다가지 believe 체데바 잠시데 매바예베데바 잠시 핑계어만해서 라버도 아주다지 상보다 리바사데 오늘 전에 당연 대체 시신에 뜻이
As I said yesterday, when we are people who want to do something to help ourselves in this life, it's not enough for us just to have some sort of a belief or some sort of faith or some sort of interest in it. That alone does not really help us. Instead, we really need to understand the reasons. We need to really examine carefully the nature of how things are. We need to look and see what is it that is good and what is it that is bad, so that we will be able to discern what is good from what is bad. If we do not do that and instead just have some sort of a belief or some sort of imagination of that, then that does not benefit us.
땅아랑 삼수를 채비면 아주 미스사디 가르치랬으나 안바지지 네트 더버지 네트 스두산 차완더고 차견더버지리 타게르 지레 세과 김선 가르스나 에네 지 찔레 직되를 시다 아주 핀수 찔이야 직되체 땡진 다 지중 산란장도 찔레 직되치 내외 인상 디규제 되네 에네 타게더 그래서 가르리리네 데바차데 알지 제장 지 미진닝부 산란장도 야면에 지 링예사디 지 소수기 가서다 링예사 딘지지기 간다르 미지베 차게다와 네 딘지지베 인상 링예데 이미냥 아주지 초망부질이야对呢 망부질이야 습시체 망부질이야 따도체네 에네 링예제베 남주기 개과래 마도베 드가스 지 소수기 지 남도 칠수 잠당 다나신 야나지 가수의 소수기 에너지 belief somewhere 소수라니기 외에 에네다 이셰샤바 잠시기 딘디지 토안에다 로토야 매비치 드네 유산 디준센데네 참sam지 미진닝부사데 소수기 루뷰가네 냐 매교지 지잖아 미신당 토안에 소수기 미진닝부데 미신당 토안에 준듯이 잡도야지 소수 판듯이 잡마시비치랴 미신다기 신다가 딱 하는 버지 상부주주로 근데 미신다기 소수리아 good example로 대용도 산에 배상부로 대용도 산 디토안에 소수 미지기 가져야 돼 미지 된다는 데버지 지하기 배상부도 미신다가 수 대용아지다 미신다가 토안에 시엔 토야로지 다든데 고 용시야래 디네 두산 디규젠데네 안수 나한테
The way I think about it, our human life is like a net. And the reason for saying that our human life is like a net is because it's in a net, everything is dependent upon another. We are all dependent upon each other. You can say that we are interdependent, which means that we all depend upon one another. And so that makes it like a net where we're all connected to each other. And so when we think about it, what does it mean to say like the essence of a human life, or what does it say to be able to say what is good and what is bad? It's when we think about if we think about our life as being like a net, we have to realize we have to look in all different directions to be able to see what is good about our life. We need to examine all the directions. We need to look in all the different directions. And only when we do that can we really tell what it is that is good or bad. Otherwise, if it is just something that we make up with a thought, or if it's just our own individual belief, something that we think for ourselves, that is really not the essence of our lives. And so for that reason, when we are trying to figure out what the essence or the meaning of life really is, then it's not just a question of looking inside oneself, but sometimes we have to look outside. We have to look at others to see other people, other people often give us a good example, and we can look to them for a good example as to what is good or bad, what brings us an essence or meaning in this life. And so for that reason, to learn what that meaning of our lives is, if we look at others, then we can look for it and find it and come to learn it from others.
제자디 균전되네 아주 최체하디 아주 남균 즉 최체 시도사는 가시 즉 3년 나눠리야 다간다 직파 bena gom ge visualization samra ba ji hlai ne jor din je gom kerim de gom che du sane mi mang bu chi nge le ya de ti ga shue ji mi mang bu chi le ya de kerim gom ya de da an ji ba 가르쳐 라이 넘버를 일이 차들이야 강에 용용되게 있으래 다 강에 연주스한테 우주를 겹치 소소에 다지 sob다로 들어 이제 따네 그 우주 겹리 다대 야구를 제샤 다 예민이야 녜네 디 숭년을 숭년 들어 이제 따되래 녜네 아주 소소리야 디 손나르지 다변 제레스를 공부 이면은 녜네 제레스 디 차시디 레로 이제 따되래 녜네 제레스 사다 가르치 제레스 사고 전도연으로부터 가르치지 다는 신 코란을 든 차시 가지고 라바니 알 제레스를 라바 퇴바니 서머로 차 퇴바니 용과에 좀 생각해 디 전도연 디술레 소소기 로레야베 주부지당 지 천왕 데머를 충분히미나 아니 신의지 제레스기 꾸이 남바 일차들에 강해를 시다면 되는 거지 그래서나 차시베나 차시 여바디 전도연디 세메시 세메시 일체 연주사나 안 걸리지 가르쳐 라바시 제거하들 균센 데머를 지당 구유여버지 언데도 와 되는 연주사는 얘네야디 전도연들이야 삼을 아버지 초와 데머지 뭐중어체 남바들이야 아주지 남바들 퇴에 되면 때 비슷하네 다 디안지 괜찮지 feelings 안에 매겨 지금 대야베 도르비 디딩에서 이게 도르 디딩에서 제비나 괜찮을 차리 디소를 제정 아주야 참저 최제스도 안에 답베 쮸메기 쮸마 정도만 뭐 제대로 마도베 소수기 생은 나로리야 오늘 전에기 다다 유에데베 가르쳐다 지 개회 삼바이네 장도 쮸마모이비 로스는 장 쮸마모이비 게심로 틴디지 토네 데베지 나디 사병 주도 전에 대 야게 동아로 지당 안다나시 대 공배 동아로 틴디지 삼시다 코도 매버지 소소로 매버지 베지 소에지 우주 겹네 배 우주 겹 다나신기 에너지 가르쳐다 배 다배 나한테 가르치려고 라비시면 다 찍고 조사 다들 이제 라시대
So for that reason, when we think about Dharma, usually when we think about practicing the Dharma, what we think about, like when we think about doing meditation, if we're going to think about visualizing a deity during the creation phase of the deity. So what many people think, and they start doing the visualization of the creation phase, and they start trying to imagine themselves as the deity, in the form of the deity, and they find it very difficult. And so they sort of, they really try very hard at that. And of course it is good. But instead of that, and instead of first trying to imagine yourself in the image of some sort of deity, maybe it's more important to think about first getting a feeling for what the deity is. Like if we're trying to visualize ourselves as Avalokiteshvara, then Avalokiteshvara has 4 arms. And so, well, first of all, what does Avalokiteshvara or Chenrezig mean? What is the meaning of Chenrezig? Who is Chenrezig? And so Chenrezig has 4 arms. We only have 2. So what is the reason why there are 2 extra arms? So we have to know what is the symbolic meaning for there being the 4 arms. And then when and if we don't have that feeling, then if we try to imagine Chenrezig, then it's very difficult for us to do that. And so first we need to think about, what do the 4 arms mean? The 4 arms mean the 4 immeasurables. And then when we think about the meanings of the 4 immeasurables and the 4 arms, then at that point we understand there's a reason. There's something we can comprehend about why there are 4 arms. And so we first need to think about, what is the meaning? What does it represent? And then when we do that, then it's easier for us to visualize the form of the deity. Otherwise, if we try to visualize the deity without having any understanding of the meaning or any feeling for it, then it's as if we were visualizing something that is carved in stone. And so when we talk about practicing the Dharma, if we try to practice Dharma in that way, then that is just projecting some sort of making a contrived projection of some idea, instead of looking at what it is that we have in ourselves. We need to look at the virtue within our minds, the seeds of virtue that we have within ourselves, and then we need to work with that. And so we need to take that virtuous seed within ourselves and we need to increase it. We need to work with it and increase it, improve it. And then if we do that, then we will really, it's not as if we are trying to, that is how we need to do the meditation. It is not as if we are trying to take something that we don't have and fabricate it new.
미마무지 다 세티니를 자주면 고마토 망무도와 상계 좀 된데 군들자 안 가실래 시라자 최시라 순고문도 지 가주에 까메르 지가지 주쇼 사야서 주쇼 라자 남사지 가주다 자주면 토송으로 레라로 싶다 누가 아주 주쇼스 남네 뱅가와 말 답에 왕고르베 지구드에 반담을 제시하네 페너지고 맞다 곧 가시엘라 아니 주쇼스라도 상남상 다좀 고마토스 사는도 디수영 아주 녀주기 갈라가 다고 주쇼스 라바sam시 다좀 고마토르고 가라지나 다디 가라도 사람 건데 겨왕아망아마 타는 무시지 다 겨왕아맹아마 답에 가져다 배는 상계 위sun 거도 맞지라 아니 개회 바자라지 여비체 지도 하지 레 가져 개회 바자라지 타배 바자라지 다 채딜라 상계 마도 수직이 퀄리티 타배 바자 여바다 개회 사변 여바다 신거 맞다 invisible 뭐야매 뭐세 되어야만 다이면은 진지지기 개회 파자 죄먹면 비 개회 파자지 그 규리야 예배 인상 디 예배 토래 아니 지 상기 베지 다 진이라바서는 다 저기 베 최대배 툴을 때는 개회 파자 세네 응 남상 프리 차는지 남상 가르쳐야지 에 양해되어 토야를 정도 제가 다때 가르쳤잖아 개회 파자 진지지 예배지 아주 때나잖아 통화에 된게 진지지 이내야 딱 안데 진지지 개회 파자 창호주의비네 디투디 뉴바 세나라도 투세나라도 디지 첨보레샤 제자 디비 균세 되는 게 다데 가르치고 알았으나 나랑 수수 규리야 오늘 전에 제안이나 생계기 지 개회 연대 망부요 하래 지체는 중요 뒤리야 랑게 랑게지 가져야지 에 로게와를 쳐대야 돼 망고치원데 이는 아주 때 care 델레베 제경게 제어만 델 도나게 제어만 요샤다 대 메인베지 액 가져야다 베 실로게 베 나와 타타선지는 딩고 거지 디 난그 소수 제모 메인베 에베 이신기 노브를 묻히다 보기 이제 왜 연대 소소레베 가져다 장래 매버지 치료를 제지 강에 잡고 수술을 정신줄도 수도 해야 돼 버려 서머베 다 되게들 미생 아주 도나겠지 오늘 셰비미나 최탐지 된데다 로지 나버가베 개회 사변 파자 디토량 고주네 아니지 탐지 개배 공방 마도기 받은 로가야지 제마 드제 개회게 배 시저로 짜네 매버지리아 강갈로베 가셔다지 에베 가셔다 아주 미쇠샤 수수기 주매원의 소과야 준비나 다 가라 갑시다 드니 주산에 디준세 되네다 디 개회 파장 개회 연대 참모지 예비네 델레 제제 체과의 개좀시라입니다.
During the time of the Bhagavan Buddha, there were many people who achieved the state of arhat in that very life. they would, in that very lifetime, they would meet the Buddha, and it wouldn't take much. He would just say a few words, and they'd immediately awaken to the state of an arhat. Sometimes he would just say, "Come here," and then they would awaken to arhathood. It seems very easy for them. But for us, if someone were to say to us, "Oh, come here," then it doesn't work for us. We have to go through a lot of work to do it. You have to have an empowerment, ring the bell, and have the vase and all sorts of stuff, and still that doesn't even really help. And so forget about just saying, "Come here." We have to go through all sorts of problems just to get anywhere. And so why is it that at that time there were so many people that the Buddha could just say, "Come hither," and then they would awaken to and become arhats? Well, the reason is because a long time ago in the past, many, many lifetimes before, often during the time of the Buddha Kashyapa, they had done something virtuous. They had the virtuous imprints or the seeds of virtue within themselves. And then, so in that lifetime, then they had these seeds, these imprints of virtue within themselves, but they're something that are like invisible. They're something that no one else could see except for the Buddha. But the Buddha could see them. He could say just a few things and then teach them a little bit, and maybe you could say it's the blessings of the Buddha, but he just says a few things and then they could be freed. They would achieve nirvana. And so why is that? Well, it's because they have these imprints of virtue with them. These are something that we cannot see. They're very, very subtle. But there is this power, this potential within all of us, though we do not pay attention to it. And so the reason that I'm saying this is that inside all of us, there are just, naturally, there are these virtuous qualities. They've been with us from the time we were very young. They're just naturally part of our mind, that our mind is naturally inclined in that direction. But we have not cared for these. We have not taken interest in them. It's as if we've tried to discard them. And instead, we have turned our attention outwards. And forgotten the wish-fulfilling jewel that is within ourselves. We've looked outwards at all of the dazzling things in the outside world and forgotten these qualities that we naturally have present within ourselves. And so it's present there, but we have not paid it any attention to it. And so for that reason, we all have this, what we need to do when we practice the Dharma is we need to work with the seed that we all have, these imprints that we all have. We need to sort of elicit the power that is naturally there and work with that until we achieve the ultimate state of awakening. Otherwise, if we think that when we do this, we forget about that entirely and try to get something from outside of ourselves, some artificial thing that is made by people, and try to work with that, it is very difficult to do that. And so instead, what we need to do is we need to treasure these imprints of virtue, these very subtle seeds of virtue that are present within us.
제상 아주 뒤근지 최체스도사는 다지 가두이네 띵아랑 초나르시 아주 직 참sam지 가주에 다다지 소소를 강해버디 멋스미체 다다 소소를 예버디 레라차밤 야나지 린당 총차밤 안에다 미세케민도스 나델레 화버지다 베델레베 케바르도 파버지다 델레베 원버 토완르지 고도 사마르지 다 증거어봐 다 임비네 냠네 링부르 뭐체 뒤지 링부르 뭐체 두산 타마들 가리용 두산아 소수 우마들 말레 딩여르지 오늘 제베네 소수 고마저마도 자첨부디 우마네 소수도 냠돈 로네 예데비지리아 하마오체 대만인베지 텔레 지거지다 텔레베 야가지르지 톰데르지 데네르지 다 임비네 자치슈고 하마오체 제상 디균제 되는다 벤티상 디 가바드는 막 멋있다요 셀폰 벤지 아이폰 좀 하고 싶다요 아이폰 되는 갈레르지도 하다디 다 달러지 iPhone 4 5 되네 6 다 디즈디 다 담보 소설 iPhone 4지 유디스단 다 디다 득디에 삼성으로지 다당 안에 요 삼성으로지 텐디가 와르디 iPhone 5 10 대야 다 디스 갈아 소주도 다 코지 코나 매나마도 야 잠 지금 마소 삼성으로지 오늘 제가 소설 iPhone 4대 배주하고 당신 거 하면 iPhone 5 년에 미세 가수에 저 가수에 펜도 엑스트라 펜도 예매 하고 딱 간다래야 아주 드릴 비주얼다 현대로 드릴 비주얼에 제장에 남준이 사람 없이 해서래 양가시에 대나라는 펜도르지도 그래서 나라 추준 걸이야 로숨시 걸이야 에너지 가서래다 심젠데 아주 배율이야 이 심젠데 세르 삼삼 디류사는 거라 로숨시 걸이야 지디지 다 닌지 서머는 다지 세와 서머는 베다 드르 촌나로지 차부르지 온데 이게 아주 디스 정도 다 디제래야 당연지 최고래야 슈 최고베 로종로 망부체래 라마 망부대네 지 오늘 셰비 다 제자 다 이민이야 다당 아주 나랑 도스파 삼다비 이민아 다다베 주메기 베 냠용 베 야창 망보레 겁디디기 지버충의 겁기 주먹만 임베지 참는 닌지데라 뒤나면 둘서면 만들지 가디이네 다 코베린 다처럼 차대 나한테 직 제대로 잠을 주마를 지 마도베 에네 딜리아 가수에 차 탐지네 에너지 둘서면 만들지 지용에도 소화르지 제가 디준센데네 지 참여원에 지 소수의 정규리 예배 주제만 모임에 다 생기기 계획 사변 파자 배 차창무 주제네 배 상기 대비기 배 권배 뉴시샤네 엔델리아 배지 가르소다 가르소에 텐제비가 로테레베 제경체 엔델리아 배지 가르소 가와치 뭐 겁네 디니베 무튜이네베 야게 공배도 당하고 드리지기 에네베 배주셔고 하다 개점으로 좀 해도 섬자니
And so usually what we feel when we say practice the Dharma is that what we have within ourselves, we forget about what we have within ourselves. It's too easy. It's too simple. It's not complicated or not valuable enough for us. And so we look for something that is better to it, something superior, something that is higher or more exalted than that. But then when we do practice for a long time, the longer we do practice, and then in the end, what is it that we come to? Well, actually, we just come back to exactly what it is that we had within ourselves from the very beginning. Actually, that has been going along with us all of the time. And yet we still look for something else, something outside of ourselves, not really knowing how priceless and how important this, what we already have is. And so like, for example, if you think about with like iPhones, with iPhones, first there was the iPhone 4, then there's the iPhone 5, and then soon there's going to be an iPhone 6. And so, at first you got the iPhone 4, and then you thought, okay, I can do everything that I need to do with this iPhone 4. It's great. And then they come out with the iPhone 5, and then you think, oh, I really need that iPhone 5 too. I can't do without it in any ways. Actually, you've had the iPhone 4 and you've actually never even really known how to use the iPhone 4 and never really been able to do that. So what extra benefit can you possibly get from buying yourself an iPhone 5? But that's what we're like. We always have this wishing and this clinging for other things. So, it's like something I have said many times before, but I'll say it again because it's helpful for me to say it again. When I was little, when I was maybe 3 or 4 years old, sometimes we had to butcher animals. And when we did butcher animals, then it was like this feeling of compassion, you could say, or this strong feeling of affection that came up. And then when I think about that feeling, since that time I entered the gate of the Dharma, I have studied a lot, I have taken teachings from many different teachers, but when I look back on it, if I were to compare all of the sort of artificial experiences I have, of 100 artificial experience of compassion that I've had, to that genuine that genuine feeling of compassion I had when I was young, there's no way that they could even come close to comparing that. So all of these artificial or made-up things that I have done, there's no way that they can come even close to that natural feeling that I had when I was young. And so for that reason, within of us, all of us, within our beings, there is this uncontrived, natural, instinctive roots of virtue, these instinctive seeds or imprints within us. And so we need to look at these, and we need to think of these as if they were as rare as a Buddha. And thinking of them in this way, we need to thinking of them in this way, we need to treasure them and rejoice that we have them. And then when we do our practice, we need to continue to try to develop these and use them.
장승이 도매처럼 샤고를 튼두 제베 섬게래마다 샤고 수시 제바 가지 라르 장도 민년바의 미人신 상황의 계지人신 상황의 니린 체지 총알을 루발라 세와미 다 대화 되베 대신도 신 대화인데 다 동해 민되베 신 신생기 동해 봉에 삼절을 세베 닝구 루베디는 디 계체 다디 고되는
Those who keep their temporary and ultimate intent secret from the Lama and then make dispute after dispute will be reborn in the Vajra hell. How can they hide the bulge of the 3 poisons in their nature from the Lama? They are so focused on this life that anyone can see through them. The root of what is needed now is that one must have no faults in the 4 defeats and the first remainder of the vows of individual liberation. Thoughts of attachment or aversion to our Dharma traditions as the same or different depend upon our mind. One does not know what makes the water in a jug go bad, so it is important to examine ourselves. In terms of the Bodhisattva vow, we need to develop bodhicitta in the sessions into which we divide each day. It is important for us to confess and resolve properly. In general, in order not to break the Bodhisattva vow, it is important for a person to have a good character. A good character does not mean saying that those who are close to you and on your side are your clan. It means our intentions and actions of knowing that just as we want to be happy, others want to be happy. And just as we don't want suffering, others' suffering must be eliminated. Thus, it is important for us to have fortitude from deep within.
다들 미세가 생각해 주시면 다 나기 동바데 라망위시 진기 로마 겐데기 뇌다데 데르거바 임발라 팅사 대시메베 왕당마가 실럽이에 대도비 칸주 최경기 뼈로 탐지라 바지 동두 대나劝데 근바점기 까와 점기 리부치와시 그에데 팅사 상아기 원치도 민다바네 미장와레 메바 점기 랑와 점기 유라 펜토벤 지부니 민두 대나 나라메기 동바 유레 예바 남라야 나기 저동 감체와는 유런 중세 충디 저동 폐지를 계속 공부라 천도 개방 나기 저동도 숨비 대냠내 지시매배나 신매발라 세외 도바 세외 도 미그 바단자 원장 탐지를 예균 총재 상하 매발람시 임비 대쇼다 내주르미 랑왕 튠기 파르마치 렘바당 개발 람섭 라멘네 조 냠소 렘베 대 녀바 탐지 치르주 뉴 하버 상게 타고르 벨룰라 방세 강봉 년부 지기 디샤 동화 치르주 방된 기세기 조 무규 인베 체내 닝라 세와 데비 나와 지미 로지미바 년전전에 소아다비 쏜dim디랑 거는 냠내 티도 뒤딱버 체거바이 게리 모게 와래다 조그린 기노다 제바 로제바베 쏜디브 끼지마레 살람기 연된 조발라 캡치 배 간젠데나 야가르니 중 휴규 두마시 중 찌르 다보 거유 개발자와 승계의 주도 랭게다데 두숨 캠베 거유 도지 창지기 제 상계 년배 파도全반 딜리 칠업차와 가나요
The tantric vows should be given by a clairvoyant lama to a student whom they have examined as a worthy vessel. But these days it is not like that. So the blessings of the empowerments and instructions have dissipated. Due to that, the dakinis and dharma protectors send obstacles for all masters and disciples. Therefore, this dharma is rare. Merely because it is rare, it is difficult. Merely because it is difficult, we need a great result. These days, what is called by the names Vajrayana empowerment and instruction is more plentiful than filth. It is not that one takes it merely because it is plentiful, and that merely taking it results in a benefit to one's being. Therefore, among those who have the vows of unexcelled mantra, even for those who think they have committed root downfalls of mantra, there are few who have serious root downfalls in their beings. Most root downfalls are conceptual thoughts that arise about the creation and completion meditation, it is said. So since there is not any proper practice of those, it is not like not needing to fear hail when you do not have a field. Instead, all the wrongs and faults that occur in Samaya are taking mere interest in the secret mantra as the path. Thus taking the path empowerments of Chakra Samvara and Yogini in interrupted sessions, and in particular practicing the profound path of Guru Yoga will repair all such faults. Especially in the tradition of the Dakpo Kagyu, whatever discards you might have eliminated, or whatever antidotes you have developed, the main thing for confessing misdeeds, restoring downfalls, enhancing practice, and removing obstructions is devotion. But it should not be like some person overwrought with fever who supplicates for 1 month or 1 year. You must supplicate continuously, day and night, and make these supplications the main part of your practice. Each second of supplication is more profitable for perfecting the qualities of the paths and levels than years of continual practice of a dull creation phase and a completion phase mixed with obscurations. Here in Tibet, there are many Dharma lineages that came from India, but how could any have greater blessings than the Dakpo Kagyu in general, and the line of the great Vajradharas from Dusim Khenpa, the Buddha Simha, and Peerless Siddha, up through Sanjay Nyempa in particular?
Tena labje zo yuban de la mugu semje la chansem chen de la shenlo sumbo de tingwa de jene kaza minba nimu miyin wada cemu minyi bar gomge magom na yule mige gom na yul gewa shibe chuni yin tena longdam chebe tumi toba chugyu yena lama jing yena ngusum mena milam do sowa tobla ti gomjembe toba sel toba de dorji lugi nilu sheba chigi sowa mato peloge kowadan shirabgi jebe selmidu tena pinjundu chuen zhishe cheba we 추인这些 rangi yudindu cheba de keche.
The main trainings in this lineage are devotion, bodhicitta for sentient beings, and revulsion for this life. One must meditate on these three in an unbroken continuum, not merely mouthing it, but undistracted during the day and without sleeping at night. If you do not meditate upon them, they will not arise in your being. If you meditate, they will arise. This is the nature of cognition. Therefore, this is not the time for meaningless talk. If you have doubts to resolve, ask the Lama directly if they are present. If not, supplicate and ask in your dreams. The ability to resolve great meditators' doubts is something that only those who know the nature of the Vajra body have. An understanding from reading texts or analysis with intelligence cannot dispel them. Thus, instead of having a mutual question and answer session about the Dharma, it is more important to ask the questions and find the answers within your own being.
다 간다라야 다 도나다 망고 싶송샤 티제 레레지 드시 잡고 중에 잡스스 게임도 다 조조 되네 가수에 지 지당게다 남버상게베 가수에 지 남버상게바 다 양고서 지 가수에다 지에 타베그 유기 에메지 냠시기 조르데 가라사나 에너지 자와도 유배라마라 무규 근데 샘제 리메와 탐제라 창세 다 챈딜라 셰로 다 대숨부디 나 냠랭게 티암 냠랭게 조르디 대임바제 대임바대양 에너지 다 최예보 거상배 숨번나신 예배 남다르 탐지 당화도 대예베스 숨번나신 라마 고마 그주 고마데 남다르 상물로 대제비다 냠레 자와 숨부디 냠술레네 진짜 남다르 탐지 당화도 대요래 제자 텔라베 대와 좀 현라 두스임바레 대인주산에 디균전 대네 다 대숨부디 가르는 디나는 숨부는 청월 제네스 청월 제사 가르서는 안주베 지니 숨선베 가르고 텔레야베 베 장가자데 무 장가자 민세 디게다 현로 장심 무유 숨부들레베 장가자니 다제 장가잡사데 양디 현로 장세 무유스야 디 측딘 되는时候말다 다디 장가잡사데 셈리야 딘제게 되는베 가수에 냠레 숨부데 가제 송마송 딘제게 진장 체거베 임바레스 마다베 다 송나 송마송 마서 다 잠창에 샤샤베 임비나 디냠레 아버지 연구하면 해서
So there have been, of course, there's a lot here, but the main point of what this is that in Buddhism in general, and in particular within our tradition of the Tapo Kaju, the main part of our practice is, first of all, devotion for the root and lineage lamas. Secondly, it is the bodhicitta for all sentient beings. And thirdly, it is revulsion for this life. So these are like the center or the hub, the primary aspect of our practice. It's as the king of Dharma, Gotsampa, said, I look at all the lives of the lamas as instructions. And so he looked at the lives of the lamas and he tried to put them in practice. He took the life experiences and examples of the lama as key instructions for him to practice. And so when we look at these three, it says that we need to practice them in an unbroken sequence or unbroken continuum. But when we say it's like an unbroken sequence of them, then it's not like something we should be counting here. It's like, okay, 1 revulsion, 2 bodhicitta, 3 devotion. You know, it's not like we should be counting them in this sort of way. Rather, what we need to do is we need to look within our minds and see how has the practice affected our mind scenes and evaluate it in that level. Otherwise, if we're just sort of counting them, otherwise our practice will not go well.
다바지 디레르 지임베자 드네 선이 nima nyingang sunso yusare cheza ta ngege ji rubbish thing da xie gua yusamare ta sani ta tene nani phaji ji yusare ti kawlia ta tirin mugu yugo lina song yebe yinzang yang di chidong ya zana le mugu gi chi ji yare mugu gi chi ji ta de mugu gi chi de צי그 relation de mo ji ti tunda de xie na di tunda de do do ji xie ne da na ni ga de bi xie na ji jian de pian dou yong si bu ji de ji sam cheng ge
So that is enough for today's teaching. Now, tomorrow we have puja all day long, so you don't have to listen to me speak rubbish all afternoon. But the day after, we will have another session. So here in this instruction, there's a lot about devotion, and so for that reason, I think it would be helpful. There is another instruction in these 100 short instructions, the instruction on devotion. But instead of reading each and every word of that instruction, I can just talk about the main points of that instruction.